अभी क्या सीन है, अभी ऐसा करते हैं कि अपने जो मेहमान हैं उनको हम प्रोग्राम में अब शामिल करते हैं और हम करने ये वाले हैं कि हमारे जो मेहमान हैं आज इनका ताल्लुक न्यूजीलैंड से है और न्यूजीलैंड से ये पाकिस्तान आए हुए हैं और क्रिकेट देखने आए हुए हैं और मैं अब माइक को जो है वो अपना ऑन कर रहा हूँ and I'm welcoming Andrew Mclean to my show. And Andrew is in Pakistan for the Pakistan-New Zealand Test series. He will be staying here, I'm assuming, for the ODIs as well. And Andrew is a very frequent visitor to Pakistan. I thought he's here for the second time, but he told me that he's in Pakistan for the fifth time, which is quite amazing. Andrew, welcome to the Sunrise Show. How are you doing?
Thanks, Adeel. Nice to see you in a studio this time rather than a baggage carousel at the airport.
Absolutely. Andrew and I met at the Lahore airport back in October, I assume. Yeah. And that's when I think Andrew was here for the England series, right? Andrew,
the T20 series.
For the T20 series, right? Andrew, just introduce yourself to my audience. I mean, I told them you are from New Zealand. Was you able to pick what I was talking about cricket right now? Because I was deliberately using a lot of English while I was talking about this match. So I think you could make sense of the 50% of the stuff that was said, right?
Well, I got the 4 consecutive losses part. That was fairly easy to understand.
That was really easy to understand. So Andrew, introduce yourself, yeah.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Adeel, I've been to Pakistan a number of times this year. Initially, I came here for that Australian Test series back in March.
Right.
Not that I particularly like or support Australia, but at that time, you know, it had been a year of fairly intense lockdowns and that type of thing. I live in Indonesia these days, and it wasn't too bad there, but travel was hard, right?
Yeah.
So by March, travel was opening up again, and I saw there was cricket on in Pakistan. I'd never been to Pakistan before. There was no quarantine here. Everything just kind of fell into place. And I landed in Islamabad, and watched a fair bit of cricket, explored a bit of the north while I was here on that trip. And,
that's very nice.
And I've just kept coming back, really. But as you say, I'm a New Zealander, so it's quite nice to watch my own team here. I thought we might have found it a little bit hard here, but that pitch that they've got out there is, I think my nephew could play pretty well on.
I think we Pakistanis are pretty hospitable people. Not just the people on the street, but the cricket board as well. We accommodate every cricket team, welcoming them with a very easy pitch that anyone can play on, and we just, the reason for that, Andrew, is that we really do not know what our strength is. I mean, if you make fast bowling tracks, our batsmen are going to suffer. We won't be able to face those. If we make spinning tracks, we'll turn Ish Sodhi into some Shane Warne mentor or someone. And I think we're going through a pretty lean time. We'll talk about Pakistan cricket in a bit. But Andrew, knowing more about yourself, you're from Wellington, I believe you told me.
Yes, yeah, Wellington's my hometown, where I lived more or less all my life up until the end of my 20s when I moved to the UK. But well, Wellington's home, but I don't call it home these days. Because I haven't lived there for so long, basically. Yeah.
So you're living a sort of a nomadic life, if I may call it that way. So are you doing a full time? Are you engaged with any media outlet or something? Because I'm pretty sure living in Bali would require some money or something. So
no, I actually teach English as my kind of main job.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's what I do most of the time. But this year I just decided I wanted to watch a bit of cricket, and I'm also, because when I lived in England, I was there for 10 years. I was totally in a different sector. I worked in financial services, and I think just coming here has just got me much more connected again to the sport.
Yeah.
And I've done a little bit of commentary this year. I was actually on another channel yesterday doing some live commentary, and that's what I
saw your picture. You were there on Radio Pakistan. I think it was sitting with Sikandar Bakht.
Yeah. Well, the difficulty they have is that they were happy to have me on air, but then they didn't really have a natural English comments man next to me.
Yeah.
So thankfully Sikandar came and helped out for a while, and then there was another gentleman, Mr. Harris, came on later in the day. But yeah, I really enjoy commentary. I haven't done it for a long time, and I'm just getting back into it slowly.
That's pretty nice. Abhi, we're moving towards a break right now, Andrew. So we'll be on a break for 5 minutes. We'll come back. We'll talk about cricket, of course. We'll talk about your life as well. And you keep coming back to Pakistan. This is your third trip in Pakistan in this year, if I'm not mistaken. Or is it the fifth one in the same year? So you've got a multiple visa for Pakistan for...
They keep letting me back in. I don't know why.
That's pretty brilliant. There is something here in Pakistan for you. So we'll try to explore that in the latter half of the show. अभी आपको हम लिए चलते हैं ब्रेक की जाने. मिलेंगे आपसे इस ब्रेक के बाद. Don't go anywhere and keep listening. Yes, welcome back guys. एक बार फिर से आपको खुशामदीद कहते हैं. 8:24 हो चुके हैं. हमारे साथ Andrew Mclean. Andrew Mclean is with us in the show today. He's traveling to Pakistan. This is his fifth trip to Pakistan in 2022, and he's from New Zealand. He's here to watch the test match, see his team play, and perhaps see your team win a test match in Karachi. How confident you are about New Zealand winning today?
Well, when New Zealand declared yesterday, after Williamson got to his double century, I thought, okay, well, there's only really two possible results here.
Yeah.
I think a tie and a draw. A tie and a Pakistan winner, probably out.
All right.
But I think I wouldn't have said if you had that win predictor, I wouldn't necessarily have had it too far in New Zealand's favour. But I think Abdullah Shafiq, when he wakes up this morning, will think to himself, what did I do last night?
Right.
That was just such a needless shot,
True.
And then losing Shan's wicket was just huge. So that would have really affected the team's confidence. And guess what? Guess who the pressure goes on once again,
Right.
A bit like against Australia here in Karachi back in March. Baba's got the pressure on him to basically bat the whole day today, which of course he can do.
He can do for sure.
But I think New Zealand will fancy their chances having got those 2 wickets last night. I mean, it could not have gone better for New Zealand in the Pakistan second innings so far.
Mm-hmm. Andrew, there's something that I ask whenever I meet someone from Australia or England, or maybe I'm asking a Kiwi now. How big would that be for the people back in New Zealand? I mean, are people actually following cricket there? I know New Zealand has got those two sports, and I'm pretty sure rugby by far is the most popular sport there. But do people really follow cricket there? Like, do they turn on the sports news and they wait for the cricket bulletin and stuff?
Oh, definitely. I think New Zealand's gone through a little bit of a renaissance with cricket in recent years. Granted that I haven't been living there myself, but we've actually got a pretty good team these days.
Right.
We keep making finals.
Yes.
We keep making semi-finals.
Mm-hmm.
We won the World Championship a couple of years ago, the Test Championship, that is. So there is a lot of interest in New Zealand cricket, and there's no competing summer sport, right? Cricket and rugby don't really clash. They clash a little bit in sort of late mid-February, but they pretty much don't clash. So, cricket's hugely popular. It's the same as it is here for young kids and everything.
Okay.
That's the game that you play.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one good thing, actually, I mean, there's been a bit of criticism about New Zealand touring Pakistan at this time of year, which is right in the middle of New Zealand holiday season.
Okay.
However, it starts at 6 p.m. on TV. So
that's the prime time.
it's brilliant viewing time.
Yeah.
It's on a paid channel. It's on Sky. You've got to have a subscription, but most people have it anyway because the rugby's on Sky too. So. From that perspective, it actually couldn't be better. I mean, there'll be some diehards that are staying up till 1 a.m., 2 a.m.
Right.
to watch the match. But cricket's really popular. But I think the question you're trying to ask is, like, if you compare it to England, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just nuts on cricket in England.
You really think so?
Well, I don't know if it's on. See, this is the thing. I don't know the proportions.
Yeah.
Like, my guess would be, if you had to compare, say, New Zealand, England, and Australia, proportion-wise, probably Australia would have the most.
Okay.
Is my guess.
Right.
And New Zealand could actually be second. But those that do follow cricket in England,
Right.
and the history and the tradition,
They follow it like crazy, right?
They follow it like crazy, you know. They're really, I suppose, aficionados of the match,
Right.
of the game. But I think that also stems from the fact that, you know, their club cricket is just so good in England.
Yeah.
You know, and that I don't know how many cricket clubs there are in England, but I've played for a few of them. There's a whole culture around cricket.
Right.
And then you just also have to look at the stadiums in England.
Yes.
If you have a test match in England,
No,
it's full.
It's full. It's unbelievable.
Although, interestingly, when New Zealand toured last year, they priced the tickets at Lord's especially so high that they didn't fill the stadium.
Yeah.
But look at the summer that they just had in England last year. This year, every ground was packed. So,
Right.
but I guess that's also, you know, showing the numbers of population.
That's actually pretty encouraging, because I always thought maybe cricket is losing popularity. There's just too much maybe Indianization of cricket right now, that perhaps, yes, it's very popular in Pakistan because that's the only sport. We are not spoiled for choices there. That's the only sport that we have got. And same goes for, I think immigration has got a lot to do with that factor as well. I mean, there's so many people from India and Pakistan. I've got listeners who used to live in Pakistan now listen to my show in Auckland and in Christchurch and those areas. I think that really perhaps matters a lot, because I see a lot of Indian Pakistani faces in the crowd in New Zealand, even when Pakistan and India are not playing. So New Zealand is playing South Africa. I see Indians and Pakistanis sitting there. Anyway, so we need to take a break right now, and hopefully Andrew will be served with tea during this break, because Andrew has developed this special liking for the Pakistani tree, right? And
I certainly have.
Gives you the kick, right, in the morning?
It's not so much the sort of the kick of a coffee, but it's more just that warm, beautiful taste in your mouth in the morning. And of course, tea is fantastic.
Tea is fantastic. All right. We take you towards a break right now. Welcome back, guys. एक बार फिर से आपको खुशामदीद कहते हैं. This is the Sunrise Show with me, Adeel Azhar. Or Andrew Mclean is with me. He's traveling to Pakistan right now. He is from New Zealand. He's here watching his team play Pakistan. And as he told us, this is the 5th time he is in Pakistan in 2022. So we were talking about some magnet here for Andrew, which keeps bringing him back to this country. And I can tell you one thing. I mean, I've been following Andrew for the past few months on Twitter, and he's not the typical very privileged Western man who is staying at big hotels and he's scared and afraid of exploring the country. And he's living somewhere, National Stadium, I believe, in Gulshan Iqbal. I saw his video. He's eating fish fried fish at the Mclean Mode there at the University Road. University Road is a mess right now these days. You must have noticed, because they are building a mass transit there. So it's in a mess. So, Andrew, the first thought that you had of visiting Pakistan, there must be some I would say some sort of fears that were going through your mind. There was some skepticism about visiting the country and all. And how have things changed in this year?
Well, that's actually a really good question, because my original plan, this is going back quite a few years, Adeel. I had a trip to India in 2009.
Right.
And I was going to Amritsar on that trip. Okay. So I thought to myself, hold on, it's only like 50k from Amritsar to Lahore. And so I was in the process of getting a Pakistan visa, and then while I was in the process of doing that, the attack on the Sri Lankan cricket team happened. And the next day, my mum called me up and she said, you mentioned you're going to Pakistan, right? I said, yeah. She said, I don't think that's such a good idea. She'd obviously seen the TV news back in New Zealand. So I didn't end up coming on that trip. as far as I got was the Wagga border closing ceremony, and to be honest, I hadn't really thought about Pakistan for a very, very long time, and I don't think it's so much to do with fear. It just kind of drifted out of my consciousness. But and I quite often I say to people that I meet in Pakistan, they ask me a very similar question.
Yeah.
They'll say to me something along the lines of, why is there so much negative press about Pakistan? And I mean, obviously, there's some good reasons for that, right? Historical reasons.
Yeah.
Historical reasons. But, I tend to respond by saying I don't really see it that way. I don't see that much negativity in the press about Pakistan. I mean, if you take, BBC, for example, they're not writing stories about how bad the place is. The problem is you don't get the positive stories.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the really nice things about when the England cricket team came here for the
T20s?
No, not the T20s so much, more for the test matches.
Yeah.
There was quite a few travelling fans.
Oh, yeah.
Which is great,
Yeah.
Whereas for this New Zealand trip, even though it's right in the middle of New Zealand holiday season, I think I'm the only New Zealand cricket fan here.
Right.
So no, I didn't really have any fears, but I think that's maybe something to do with my my nature as well.
People are inquisitive. I can see some of the messages about that. I mean, you are a middle-aged man who's seeing the world. A lot of people are asking whether you are married or not, because a married man cannot roam around like this and see the world. So tell us about yourself, about your life. I mean, if you are comfortable in sharing.
Is that also, I don't know what the makeup of your listenership is, but is that to say I'm also available? No, look, I've lived abroad since 2005. I lived in England for 13 of those years, and I have been married before, but that was quite some time ago. And in the last 4 years, I've lived in Indonesia, where I do have a girlfriend in Indonesia. So, but I think it's a bit like you said to me off air. That you were previously in a full-time job, and then you decided to do. To do more of your media and your passions. And, I'd been teaching English for 3 years and living in Indonesia on the island of Bali. That was my job.
Right.
But it just became tedious, and it's one of the most online English teaching with set lessons every day. It's that just kind of rotate.
Right.
So you're teaching the same content over and over and over. And yes, sure, I could probably try and find a more interesting job, but it was that trip here, trip here in March. It just piqued my interest, and I suddenly thought, I think there's probably some opportunities for me in Pakistan. And I'll tell you something interesting, Adeel. I came here for the 3-match series against the West Indies in Multan.
All right.
Right? But the reason I did that was mainly because it was immediately before a trip I was taking to England with my girlfriend in June. And because I went to Pakistan at that time, there was no West Indian media here. Like none. So West Indian channels were contacting me, and that led to me getting a commentary job in the Caribbean in August for New Zealand's tour there.
Wow!
So, yeah, I guess it's been a year of experimentation.
That's brilliant.
It has definitely affected my bank balance, no doubt about that. So I need to probably conserve a bit next year, but I'm hoping to turn this into paid work as well,
Hopefully you will find
That's probably the question a lot of people ask, is who's paying for all of this?
Yeah.
Or the reality is I'm paying for it.
Okay, you're paying for
But
it.
as you quite rightly pointed out, I'm not staying at places like the Pearl Continental and the Marriott.
True.
On this trip I'm staying in Gulchani Iqbal Block 10 in a in a building which is owned by a family which just has kind of a few self-contained apartments. But,
All right.
But to give you an idea, their total, I haven't calculated this in rupees, but it's British pounds, like 125 pounds for like 6 days. That's pretty cheap.
That's pretty cheap, yeah.
It's
absolutely.
huge as well. It's a lot bigger than the studio anyway.
Yeah. So, Andrew, you were traveling. You just told me that you are traveling to Islamabad tonight. You're heading to Shogran for the weekend.
Yeah, so I'm hoping New Zealand gets this job done quickly today because I've got a flight to catch. Yeah, there's a company that contacted me on Twitter a long time ago. So I've kind of been following them, and you know how you see WhatsApp status updates.
Yeah.
I just saw there was a list of trips, and I looked at the dates. I was like, well, I can do that. So it's going to be a bit rushed, but I thought, well, why not? You know, so
Why not?
Yeah, it's a tour that leaves Lahore, and then I have to meet them at, I don't know, some crazy hour of the morning, like 3 or something in Rawalpindi. But you know, one of the great things about having come here so many times, and I must say this is something that really surprised me when I came here in March, was the power of Twitter in this country is just unreal. I mean, you're probably the first person I didn't meet from Twitter. I met you in an airport, right? I mean, you knew who I was, obviously.
True.
But I've got a couple of really good friends in Islamabad. So I'll meet Asim tonight. Hopefully he picks me up from the airport, and we'll just hang out for a few hours, go have some food, and
nice.
But we speak a lot, and this is someone that contacted me through Twitter, and once I realised he was, he wasn't just saying hey, because you get a lot of people that say hey, I'd love to entertain you, and then that's the end of it. But I met him on the first day at Pindi Stadium,
Very
and
nice.
He's an ex-first class player, and we chat quite a lot on the phone now.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But you are right. I think Twitter is very powerful in Pakistan. I mean, if you really want to get your perspective across, it looks like every important man. I mean, I think that holds true for the rest of the world as well. In a lot of countries, I mean, it is by far now more popular than Twitter. I'm sorry, than Facebook or maybe Instagram. By popular, I mean not in terms of the number of users, but the impact that your tweet has. And we can zero it on few personalities in Pakistan who really made Twitter popular. But nevertheless, that's not our topic. Andrew, when we'll come back, that's going to be the last link that we have, and we'll talk only about cricket then. All right, we'll talk about the test series. We'll talk about, because I've got a few questions lined up as well. People have asked you some questions, and those are cricket-specific questions, not about your private life. All right, so we move towards a break now. We'll catch you right after this. Don't go anywhere and keep listening. So, welcome back, guys. This is the last link of the year. This is the last link of the last show of 2022, man. What a year this has been. But बहरहाल अब ये सारी बातें हम अब वापस आके मंडे को करेंगे. अपना साल कैसा रहा, क्या रहा, अगले साल का क्या प्लान है एंड स्टफ. लेकिन मैंने कुछ बल्कि ट्वीट्स भी इस हवाले से देखे हुए थे. लेकिन मैं अभी फिलहाल जो है ना वो अभी बात नहीं कर रहा, because we have got Andrew with us, and Andrew is with us for like 7 more minutes. And Andrew, let's talk about cricket now. Nothing else, just cricket. So Dr. Zishan, who's our listener in Islamabad, he's asking, who's your favorite Pakistani cricketer ever? Ever?
Oh, wow, that's a hard question. Well, so I guess at this point I need to disclose my age, so we've got a time frame. So I'm 47, so people like Hanif Muhammad, for example, I've never seen play.
Right.
So I guess the guys that I grew up watching were Imran Khan, obviously, Javed Miandad, Salim Malik, Wasim Akram. He made his debut in New Zealand in 1985 when he took 10 wickets on debut in Dunedin. Favorite player? Wow, that's really hard. I'll tell you one player I really enjoyed watching was Syed Anwar.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought he was a fantastic batsman. My least favorite player, of course, was Inzamam ul Haq after what he did to us in the 1992 World Cup semi-final. I looked at that scorecard the other day. He scored 60 off about 28 balls or something.
It was
38 balls. It might have been.
Considering that an inning like this was played in early 90s, that's pretty extraordinary. I mean, nowadays would be like a good inning, but in those days, in those conditions, against bowlers like Denny Morrison at their peak and Willie Watson and stuff.
Yeah,
I think that was a pretty extraordinary inning. Yeah,
and he was young.
He was young.
Yeah,
he was very young.
Yeah, so he'd probably. I'd say I really enjoyed watching Syed Anwar bat. But I guess my main admiration, what it was, I mean, I used to just be amazed at how Wasim Akram could swing the ball.
Yeah.
Maybe not at the start of his career, but later on when he used to come around the wicket, and he had two different types of actions.
True.
I really admired him a lot.
And even after he shortened his run up a lot.
Oh,
I think he shortened
sometimes
it by
he'd come
half,
off like 2 or 3 paces.
Yeah, absolutely. And he could swing the ball. And what about your favorite Kiwi player? I mean, someone that you always looked up to?
Oh, as a kid, it was Martin Crowe.
Martin Crowe.
Yeah, I mean, every kid either modelled themselves on Richard Hadley or Martin Crowe.
Yeah.
I mean, we're probably the best bowler in the world at that time and close to the best batsman in the world at that time. So, I mean, that fans will probably go crazy if I said that on Twitter. But, those two were exceptional. So we were really lucky as kids in the 80s to have those two icons.
This is always a question in my mind. I mean, is it like the way society is structured or what? The Kiwis do not tend to have very long careers in cricket. I mean, you see some very good player who burst into the scene, they play for 3-4 years, and then they retired early or maybe they quit cricket and all. What am I right in saying that? Because the only players, very few players like Kane Williamson who stick around for over a long period of time.
I reckon that's quite a good observation, actually, because just look at, so first of all, Richard Hadley had a very long career and he almost never got injured.
Yeah.
Like, he had I think he had an Achilles problem very late on, but he was basically uninjured and he took 431 wickets.
Right.
But he only played 80 tests, I think, or 82 tests. So, there wasn't a lot of cricket at that, you didn't have so many matches. But, yeah, look at a guy like Tim Southey. He made his debut in 2008 against England, and he's still going at age 34. But, I think that's quite fair, actually. We also don't have... I don't know. I think it's probably a bit different now, though, because they're getting paid a little bit better.
Yeah.
Although there's obviously the current problem of Kiwis actually dropping out of the national side now because of there's better money to be made elsewhere. But so we've had Ross Taylor, who had a very long career.
Yes, absolutely. So do you regard Ben Stokes as one of your men still? No.
No. Look. Ben Stokes didn't make his name in New Zealand.
Right.
He moved to New Zealand, moved to England when he was 12.
Yeah.
And he made his name in England.
Right.
Playing for the strangely named club Cockermouth. But anyway, that's no. Yes, he's born in New Zealand, but this is life. If we weren't talking about cricket, if we were talking about some other industry, that would be like saying some kid who was born in Pakistan but grew up in Dubai's,
Right. And last question, Andrew. Why do New Zealand, even though you both these countries belong to almost the same geography, why do the players from New Zealand, or is it the public in general, they appear to be like the nice people on the field compared to the Australians? Because Australians have always been pretty rude and very talkative on the field as well. I mean, you never see those Kiwis using those slurs and stuff. Is it the difference between the two countries in general, or is it just the cricket team?
Oh man, you've got onto a subject that I could spend quite a long time on now.
We've got just 1 minute to talk about that.
Look, I don't know if this is right or not, but I've got an anecdote that maybe sums it up. So there's there's this guy, and he arrives from, I don't know, Pakistan or England or wherever he arrives at immigration. And the immigration officer says, any convictions, sir? And the guy said, I didn't realize I still needed one.
Okay.
I think the heritage plays a part, but
Yeah,
no, I think the attitudes are very different.
they're very different.
Culturally very similar, but attitudes can be very different.
Yeah.
Look at the celebration by David Warner compared to Kane Williamson.
Seriously.
Ridiculous.
Seriously.
Absolutely ridiculous. If I was his captain, I would be so annoyed to get injured celebrating.
Yeah. Andrew, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for taking out time.
My pleasure.
And we wish you a wonderful and a very safe stay in Pakistan and enjoy your time in Shogran. It's a beautiful. हमारे इस साल का this was the last show of the year, but trust me guys, it's just the change in the calendar date. और कुछ भी change नहीं हो रहा. ठीक है जी. तो भी बाकी बातें इंशाल्लाह हम 2nd January which is the Monday हम आके इंशाल्लाह प्रोग्राम में बात करेंगे तफसील से जरा नए साल के हवाले से. तो अभी आपसे इजाजत चाहते हैं. इंशाल्लाह आप लोगों से मुलाकात मेरी होगी मंडे मॉर्निंग एक बार फिर. टिल देन गुड बाय, गॉड ब्लेस, अल्लाह हाफिज एंड पाकिस्तान जिंदाबाद.
This is Mira FM 107.